If you woke up today feeling pulled by forces you could not name, you are not weak, you are wired. The first philosophers left a map that explains why you crave, why you fear, why you speak, why you see visions that no one else believes. They called it the detritus of the living. Four elements, four carriers inside the human. Miss one and your life collapses. Master them and you stop being a passenger. Tonight we descend through the gates, earth, water, air, fire. Each opens a faculty, each binds a god, each forges a different self, and at the end, all four lock into a single command that the ancients called the One. Let us begin. Before you knew your own name, before memory, before language, something reached out and seized the world. Touch, the earliest bridge between the animal and the cosmos. The infant does not philosophize, the infant grips. The infant searches skin for milk. The world answers through contact, and the first wisdom is stamped through the mouth. Mouth means survival. Mouth becomes law. Earth is the mother of bodies and the midwife of all beings. It is not a metaphor. It is the literal ground of your organism. Every sense travels outward from the skin and returns through the nerves to the throne of judgment. But one sense is crowned here. Touch, not the touch of the hands alone, the total tact of the body, the weight of your bones against the bed, the sun against your forearm, the ache in the gums when hunger hunts. Lose contact with the world and the other senses dim like stars at noon. Touch is the tyrant sense because it keeps you alive when the rest betray you. It proves that you exist. It plants you in a reality that does not need your permission. That is why well-being begins with contact and disease begins with failed contact. When the flesh stops receiving, the spirit grows suspicious and the mind starts inventing ghosts to explain the silence. The economy of the Hellenic tongue tells the story with a blade. The child meets the breast, the mouth drinks and the soul calms. Contact gives law, the law gives trust, trust becomes growth. What touches you forms you. What you touch, you become. Earth also builds the instruments. 5 gates in the face of the world. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin. The visible and audible are not random tricks. They are the polished tools of survival that rose from the body's need to remain. If Earth grows them, Earth governs them, and their first allegiance is to the physical bearer. When touch fails, they go on strike. When touch is secure, they open like temples at dawn. Now the ground shifts. The body awakens to motion. Currents tug. The soul discovers it can flow and be flowed through. We enter the province of water, the second carrier of the human, and we bow to Poseidon, the king of what moves within. Water belongs to everything that rises from earth and begins to circulate. Sap inside trees, blood inside animals, breath when it turns to rhythm. Anything that flows, remembers, and seeks paths. Water is not soft. It will split stone if stone resists long enough. It takes the shape of every prison and quietly dissolves the prison walls. If earth binds us to contact, water binds us to sensation and feeling. Taste and smell speak its dialect. Desire and disgust are its tides. Here the human is born again, this time into the wide realm of emotions and the kinetic life of the senses. Infancy knows milk. Childhood learns sweetness and bitterness. Adulthood discovers intoxications and poisons that cannot be seen but can drown a sovereign mind in minutes. Every euphoria and every sorrow is an inlet from this sea. The mythographers were not playing when they made Poseidon both giver of horses and breaker of cities. The horse is the image of noble motion. The city is the image of collective order. Water can serve either. When stable, it irrigates harvests, cools tempers, carries ships toward destinies. When corrupted, it breeds miasma, floods the plains, sinks fleets, and turns the human into an errant vessel driven by compulsions and cravings. Most crimes against our own lives are not born in earth. They are born in water. Watch the signs, restless dreams and flashing appetites. A mouth that always wants more. Eyes that do not look but hunt. The person becomes a delta of impulses. The solution is not to dam the river with iron will. The solution is to channel it. Charioteers do not hate their horses. They bind them into a single motion and teach them the path to the finish. The ancients mapped this in ritual and habit, diet as discipline rather than punishment, cycles of fasting to restore clarity to taste, sacred baths to signal the end of one life and the beginning of another, songs that rise and fall like tides to steady the heartbeat. This is not superstition, it is engineering for the second carrier. At this point, the human stands on two thrones. Earth anchors and protects. Water moves and seduces. One is law, one is impulse. If they war, the organism fractures. If they ally, the organism advances. The wise give water the freedom of channels and give earth the right of walls. That is how a field becomes a city and a body becomes a person. But the ascent does not stop here. There is a third power that does not crawl or flow. It travels. It travels between beings. It travels between souls. It travels between the mind and the world and returns bearing meanings. It is the carrier that lets us speak to gods and to each other. You inhale and are forgiven one more time for being mortal. Air is the unseen temple in which every life stands. It is the medium of voice and the road of sound. The ancients gave it to Hermes because it connects what is separated and moves news faster than feet ever could. Air is the operator of presence. Through it, the human learns to distinguish near from far, loud from soft, friendly from hostile. But its royal faculty is not hearing alone. Its royal faculty is speech. Speech is not a pastime. Speech is the sword that cuts reality into names so that the mind can hold it. When the tongue consecrates a thing with a true name, order arrives. When the tongue forges a false image, chaos spreads like a fog. This is why most myths place their greatest blessings and their greatest curses inside the mouth. Air is also the judge of thinking. Thought without speech easily becomes a swamp. Speech without thought becomes a storm. The disciplined union of the two becomes command. The Greeks called it logos. The Romans called it ratio. We call it the hard clarity that ends confusion. Hermes wears wings on the ankles and the cap to teach you that ideas move. They are not statues, they are couriers. But if you promise them nothing higher than gossip and noise, they will betray you that very hour. There is another danger here. Air loves freedom. It is the first to leave when the body becomes heavy with excess. Rooms saturated with stale breath breed dull souls. Crowds that shout in circles and never listen are captured winds inside a stone well. To keep air pure, the ancients prescribed order to the voice. Oaths held sacred. Silence held as craft, not absence. Listening held like a right, because the ear can be more violent than the hand when it refuses to hear. The one who would master air trains the mouth as if it were a temple gate. Truth before impulse. Silence before babble. Praise before envy. Correction before flattery. A single sentence forged in the honor of reality can redirect a life more powerfully than a year of wishes. Now a final gate opens and everything we have named becomes bright. The fourth carrier does not push or pull. It transforms. It enters and the world shows its bones. There is a reason the poets dragged us always back to Apollo. Fire is not only heat. Fire is recognition. The light that makes forms intelligible. The warmth that invites life to grow upward instead of curling inward. Under fire, sight is crowned and mind is summoned from sleep to judgment. Fire is catastrophic in the holy sense. It breaks apart to reveal essence. It burns the dross so that the gold stands. It brings a person out of dumb habit into decisive clarity. Without fire, earth grows complacent, water grows sentimental, air grows clever without conscience. With fire, the senses become a council, and the soul becomes a kingdom. This is why the ancients tied fire to the cosmic law of measure. Apollo governs music and medicine because both demand ratios that heal rather than harm. The string must be tuned, or the song is noise. The body must be balanced, or the cure is poison. The same law holds in the mind. A thought too faint fails to move the will. A thought too fierce turns the will into a tyrant. Fire teaches proportion. Under it, you learn to see through excess and through lack until the right action appears like dawn over Delos. The microcosm mirrors the macrocosm here. The heat of the blood follows the sun of the day. The rhythms of sleep and waking bow to the cycle of light and dark. Even the mood tracks the sky when a person has forgotten mastery. Apollo's law is simple. What receives light becomes one. What hides from light splits into many and fights itself. This is the crown of the Tetractys. Four carriers, earth holds, water moves, air communicates, fire illuminates. When they finally consent to a single rule, something ancient awakens at the center and speaks with a voice the ear can barely endure. The one, not a number, a condition. The unity of the human, when all forces obey their ranks. The ancients were practical. They did not preach without tools. To strengthen earth, return to contact. Cold water on the face at dawn. Bare feet on honest ground. Work with the hands until the hands remember that the world is real and generous. To master water, create channels. Decide when sweetness is allowed to enter the city and when it is exiled. Guard the gates of smell and taste the way a general guards provisions during a siege. Turn music into ritual so that the heartbeat remembers order. To purify air, consecrate the mouth. One vow each morning that you will not betray truth. One conversation each day that carries meaning from one soul to another with no theft and no vanity. One silence each night to return the mind to its proper throne. To awaken fire, seek light with discipline. Walk beneath the sun. Read what was written by those who burned for clarity. Meditate until your seeing becomes honest rather than dramatic. When the moment arrives, choose action like a surgeon chooses the cut. But hear this, training the powers separately is not the end. The end is the marriage. When earth holds you without fear, water can flow without drowning you. When water is channeled, air can carry speech that heals. When air serves truth, fire can descend without burning the city. Then the four do not shout over each other. They harmonize. They become the single bearer of a human worthy of fate. Imagine a hall of stone. In the center, a basin of clear water. Above it, a shaft of sunlight that never moves. Around it, pillars carved with winged sandals. On the floor, the imprint of feet that once walked out of caves and did not look back. You enter. You wash your hands. You stand under the light. You speak the name you have hidden from yourself. You turn and walk into your life with the strength of earth, the discipline of water, the truth of air, and the sight of fire. This is the ancient code that programs your body and soul. It is not superstition. It is the operating system of the human. The world will try to separate what belongs together. Refuse separation. Align the carriers. Become the one. When the ancients spoke of fire, they did not mean the flame of the hearth alone. They meant the secret engine that drives transformation. Within the cosmos, within the human, within the soul itself. Fire is both destroyer and liberator. It consumes what no longer serves and releases the form hidden beneath. In its purest light, you are not watching something burn. You are watching something become. Fire is not content to live among the other elements. Earth builds bodies, water animates them, air gives them thought. But fire demands meaning. It asks, why do you exist? And it will not let you rest until you answer. The element of fire is the throne of consciousness. It rules vision, not the passive act of seeing, but the awakening of awareness, the kind that melts illusions. That is why the ancients placed Apollo here, the god of clarity, of music, of healing. His fire does not simply burn, it tunes. Every dissonance in your body, every contradiction in your thought is brought into harmony through his flame. He heals by revealing. He kills by exposing. His arrows are light. The old texts called it the catastrophic transmutation, a sacred collapse that precedes rebirth. When fire enters the human unprepared, it shatters false structures, identities, desires, attachments. But when entered consciously, the same destruction becomes ascent. The soul, once fractured, begins to reassemble itself under a single law, the law of light. Every myth that speaks of descent into hell or purgation through trial is coded instruction for this transformation. Heracles facing the pyre, Prometheus chained to the rock, the phoenix reducing itself to ash. The fire that consumes them is not punishment. It is the last gate before divinity. Only through fire does matter learn memory of its divine origin. When the human reaches fire, it is no longer a body learning to move or a soul learning to feel. It is a consciousness learning to radiate. The body becomes luminous from within, not in metaphor, in presence. The ancients believed that a person who harmonized all four elements could literally change the vibration of matter around them. Animals grew calm, flames bowed, water cleared, and others standing near felt their own chaos quiet. Fire is the proof that the universe is alive through you, not around you. To live without fire is to repeat. To live with fire is to create. Apollo's emblem, the sun, is not worship of a star. It is the recognition that within the human exists the same principle that orders the heavens, the mind of light, the logos. When awakened, it no longer depends on external sight. It becomes its own sun, governing its own cosmos. As the celestial sun rules the planets, so the inner fire rules the senses. Heat, brightness, clarity, and movement. Each has its counterpart in the psyche. The warmth of courage, the brightness of awareness, the clarity of purpose, the movement of transformation. When these four ignite together, the human ceases to be a fragment. The inner and outer worlds fuse. That union is what the Greeks called kenosis, oneness, the highest state of being, not peace as passivity, but peace as total alignment. At this height, the tetractys, the pyramid of four forces, completes its ascent. Earth holds the law of form. Water carries the law of feeling. Air transmits the law of thought. Fire reveals the law of being. Above them, a single invisible point, the monad, the one, the source that sustains and dissolves all four. The ancient text ends where all ancient initiations began, with the heart, not the organ of emotion, but the inner altar where all elements meet. The heart is the furnace of fire. Its rhythm follows the pulse of the cosmos, the rising and falling of suns. When the ancients meditated on the flame within the heart, they were not performing sentiment. They were aligning microcosm to macrocosm, breath to wind, blood to ocean, bones to earth, awareness to light. The heart that burns rightly becomes the voice of the divine order. It no longer asks, "What should I do?" It simply knows. Because it is the same intelligence that spins the stars. When the four carriers, body, emotion, speech, and vision, obey one law, the human becomes immortal in consciousness. Death loses meaning because there is nothing left to separate. You no longer exist in the elements. The elements exist through you. The ancients taught that even Apollo's fire must one day return to the source, the boundless unity they called the monad. The many return into the one they wrote, and the one shines through the many. That is why the symbol of completion was never a circle, but a spiral, because enlightenment is not the end of movement. It is the beginning of infinite ascent. Picture this, a temple at dusk. 4 torches burn at the corners, green, blue, white, and gold. In the center, a single flame rises from a marble basin. You stand before it. You see earth glowing in the coal, water steaming at its edges, air feeding its life, fire rising toward the unseen. You understand. Everything that has ever existed is within this flame, and this flame is within you. You breathe once. You close your eyes. You whisper the ancient vow. Let earth make me steadfast. Let water make me pure. Let air make me truthful. Let fire make me awake. And let the one bind them all. When you open your eyes again, you are not the same. You are the continuation of the God's experiment, the proof that the divine never vanished. It only hid itself inside human form, waiting for the few who would remember. This is the mystery of the 4 elements. This is the architecture of the soul. This is the secret the ancients called the tetractys of the living. Welcome to the throne of the forgotten. You have crossed the 4 gates. Now rule.